Hi, welcome to this online training module for enhancing team communication through conflict management. Today, in this online module, I'm going to be walking you through one communication skill related to conflict management. This module focuses on analyzing team conflict scenarios. Our training objective for this module is to analyze a real world team conflict scenario to identify ineffective communication patterns and propose one constructive alternative. This means you're going to gain the skill of being able to read a situation involving conflict and then know the best way to respond in these situations. This is a skill that you're going to learn, not just learning random terms. This is something that you're going to actually be able to use in a team setting in any real world situation. Our goal here is to identify issues and improve our responses. By the end of this module, you'll be able to recognize ineffective communication in a team conflict, explain why the behavior escalates conflict, and then suggest one constructive alternative response. Now, what does it mean to actually analyze conflict? Well, conflicts within a team often escalate due to ineffective communication. We need to remember that conflict itself isn't the problem, communication typically is. Teams experience conflict often, especially under pressure. Analyzing a conflict helps teams respond more constructively. Analyzing conflict helps things slow down a little bit since sports are such a high pace, speed, go environment all the time. Analyzing conflict can help things slow down. This skill focuses on behavior and not personality. The goal here is resolution and not placing blame. We need to remember to focus on the situation and what was said or done, not the person directly. This is why it's so important to focus on the actual behavior and not the person itself, because when we do that, when we focus on the person, that's where blame gets placed. And we need to remember our main goal here is resolution and always finding a solution. So we also have our step-by-step skill process to analyze. Step 1 is identify the ineffective communication behavior. Step 2, explain why that behavior is ineffective or harmful. Step 3, propose one constructive alternative. And we do this by focusing on our word choice, our tone of voice when talking to that person, our timing when we decide to approach this topic, and our emotional control when speaking to them. This is always a repeatable process that can be done with all our analysis, and you don't need to fix everything, just focus on proposing one better option. So here I'm going to show you a sample of a team conflict scenario. So imagine yourself at practice. Coaches call everyone over to discuss changes in a relay lineup. Imagine they gave you guys the lineup a couple days prior, but now there's a switch and they're switching two people out on the relay. Okay. Now, two teammates disagree over this relay lineup change. And then one athlete publicly criticizes the decision during practice or a meet. Tension rises within the team and communication completely shuts down. So, sports environments, the emotions are way more intense because, like we said previously, it is a very high emotion, high stakes, high pressure, all of that. So emotions are very high. Picture this happening on your own team, and then let's break this scenario down a little bit more. So, our ineffective behavior here is publicly criticizing our teammates or the coaching decisions. Now, why is this ineffective? It embarrasses teammates, it embarrasses coaches because this was the coach's decisions, it escalates emotions, and it prevents any type of productive decision that could have happened from this instead. This behavior increases conflict rather than resolving it. Public criticism often feels personal, even if it is not intended to feel that way. It usually shuts down all communication instead of keeping it open. This step is about awareness and not placing judgment on any individual. Now, we need to propose our constructive alternative. In this situation, a constructive alternative could be addressing the concern privately and respectfully. An example response could be, Could be, I feel confused about the relay change and would like to understand this decision better. That is something you could say, this person could say to the coach, anything other than any type of public criticism. And I really like this example because the I statement is very useful here because it expresses how this person is feeling and their emotions without throwing blame directly on that other person, whether it's the athlete or a coach. Now, why does this work? It encourages dialogue. It encourages further communication within the team. It encourages any other type of communication other than this public criticism that we're avoiding here. It reduces defensiveness. There's no defensive tone in this example response. That's what we're trying to avoid, is we don't want to have that tone of voice that comes off very defensive, and it keeps the focus on the issue itself. Private and respectful conversations are the way to go in this type of situation. You want to have this one-on-one exchange of conversation where you're able to share how you feel and you can get your own answers without having to share in front of the entire team and cause this disruptiveness. Now I want to invite you guys to have your turn to practice. I have a new scenario here that we'll read together, and then I want you guys to try this for yourself. I encourage you to pause the video, think about your answers, go through the step-by-steps like we talked about. So here is the new scenario. A teammate repeatedly arrives late to practice, and frustration continues to build among the team. Tension rises, people are starting to talk about it, but nobody wants to address it to the teammate themselves. So pause the video and try the following. Identify one ineffective communication behavior in this type of situation. Explain why that behavior is ineffective, and then propose one constructive alternative. There is no perfect answer, but it is important to practice this step-by-step process. So I encourage you to pause the video, think about your answers, and then we'll come back after you unpause the video. Welcome back. Here we are going to correct your guys' answers and go over some examples together. So an example of an ineffective behavior for this situation could be, again, confronting the teammate angrily during practice in front of the whole team and bringing a lot of commotion and distractions to a practice. Why is that ineffective? That, again, creates defensiveness, and it disrupts team focus. It distracts everyone from what we're trying to do at practice. And it is just overall a very distracting way to approach this type of situation. So a constructive alternative would be to address the issue privately, have a one-on-one conversation, pull somebody aside, and use the I statement, focus, impact, like we talked about, and not place blame, judgment. You're just having a conversation instead of a criticism. Common mistakes to avoid: blaming or attacking language. Again, coming back to the tone of voice, it is super important. Avoid discussing conflict publicly, and avoid passive or dismissive responses. Passive responses don't solve issues either. That can also cause more issues if they don't receive what you're trying to say well. So again, that tone of voice, having that is really important. Focus on communication that supports resolution and teamwork. Again, coming back to that, is the resolution is the main goal here, and we need to balance honesty with respect. It's important to be honest with your teammate, but also show respect with that as well. So key takeaways from this module: effective conflict analysis focuses on behavior. Identifying ineffective communication is the first step. Constructive alternatives reduce tension and build trust among your team. These skills support stronger team communication overall. And all of these skills that we've talked about today can be applied way beyond sports. They can be used in work environments and in school. Small changes in communication add up, and repetition builds confidence. Conflict is unavoidable, but ineffective communication is not. Applying this skill helps teams manage conflict more productively. Thank you for coming to this training module.